It's been a couple months since we've chatted.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, how have things been?
Great, busy. When was the summertime, right?
Yes, summertime.
Oh yeah. So yeah, they're good. On a new show now.
Is this the Hulu?
Yeah, Marvel's Hellstrom. So I'm working on that now, based on the comic Hellstrom, Satan's son and daughter. So it's a happy tale. It's really lovely. It's like a Disney princess, only Marvel. So I'm on that. I've been on that since October, and then I go all the way till January, and I play a super nice guy. Not at all. But yeah, that's been fantastic. Finished up on Sirens and then transferred right over to the other one. And just chasing my kids around, so I'm like ridiculously busy. So this is kind of like a vacation for me. I actually slept like 6 hours last night.
Oh, that's how much I get like throughout the entire weekend.
Do you remember the original Mummy?
Yes.
Yeah, remember when the mummy woke up? That's how I woke up this morning. That was more than 5 hours of sleep. Oh my God. I don't tell my wife that. I was like, no, I tossed and turned all night. I had no idea where I was. I was up for hours.
I couldn't sleep. You weren't next to me. I couldn't sleep.
You weren't there. I felt so alone and scared.
Were you a fan of, were you familiar with Hellstrom before?
No, I had no idea. Yeah. Is that my foot on there? There we go. So you see how tall I am. No, I didn't really know that world until I sort of jumped into it. And yeah, now I know a lot more, but we're not, it's not the character I'm playing. I'm not sure if it's in the series. I'm not 100%, and I don't know if I'm even allowed to say anything. I'm worried that someone from Disney might just come and kill me.
Yeah, let's just spoil everything right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Since it's not out.
So here's what happens. Hit record. No. Yeah, exactly, right? All of a sudden, Walt himself comes waltzing through the door.
Yeah.
Somehow. Yeah.
Now, again,
he's probably animated somewhere, let's be honest.
Probably.
He's got so much money. He's just like a floating head somewhere.
Now, you say Disney and Marvel, but now a previous movie series that you had done is now under the Disney umbrella, the X-Men.
I know. Isn't that crazy? I guess if you have all the money in the world, you can kind of just get what you want. And they finally struck a deal with Fox. So yeah, so X-Men is now under that umbrella, and I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe eventually end up on Disney Plus like everything else.
Right? Yeah. I've been watching The Mandalorian, and that's... I like it because it's Star Wars, but there's some things...
So you have the Disney Plus then?
I do.
Yeah, were you like a first day?
Too many streaming. No, I just literally saw Mandalorian, and I'm like, I want to watch this. And then you have to sign up, and I was like, it's $5 a month, whatever. So then I signed up for it, and now I like look at all of the platforms that I have, and I'm like, this is just way too much content.
Right, and yeah, I mean, you cut cable, and now you have...
Well, I haven't cut the cable yet.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm like, excuse my French, but fuck, I got a lot of TV. Like, I don't even watch it. 9 times out of 10, it's a Disney kids show that my daughter's watching, and so people are like, oh, did you see what happened in the news? I'm like,
that's
what
Twitter's
I can tell you what
for,
happened
right?
on Paw Patrol last night. See, Chase came along.
So what? So what do you end up if you were to be like, I'm just going to sit down and actually watch either a Netflix show or a Disney Plus show or movie? What would that show be if you actually had free time?
Well, right now my wife and I are watching Mandalorian, and then we're watching the morning show on Apple. That one's good. The acting is fantastic. And Steve Carell is hitting it out of the park. What else were we watching? I tried watching C. C is on Apple Plus, another platform.
Yes,
just in case you don't have enough. Jason Momoa is the lead of that. It's sort of a world where everyone has lost their vision and has been that way for a few hundred years, and it's sort of that feel.
I'm not sure you need a plot line. All you have to do is just say Jason Momoa's on it. And
yes.
All right, am I?
Jason Momoa's arms are on it. And so there's that, and his beard and his hair. So you guys are good. Which I didn't really get into. And then I'm trying to think of what other shows I was watching. Succession on HBO. I saw that. Sort of about a family of media magnate billionaire, and I watched that for a little bit. But yeah, just kind of trying to pick and choose some quality things. And it's the thing is when you have that 1 hour at the nighttime to pick something, you really don't want to be disappointed.
Right.
So it's like you got to find something that's really well written and basically well acted and get into it. Because there's nothing worse than getting halfway through something and being like, this is garbage. And I wasted a half an hour of my evening. And I've only got another hour left.
We touched upon X-Men becoming part of the Disney family, but so X2 was your first acting gig, correct?
Somewhat, yeah. I had done a few commercials, and I had done one day on Stargate Atlantis. And then it was boom right into X-Men. So it was a bit of, it's not your typical actor story. A lot of times it's like, well, I struggled for years just trying to find things, and then next thing you know. But then I had a few after that, and then it was kind of the reality set in that, you know, you don't always hit home runs right out of the gate.
Right.
And then it became, all right, let's work on becoming a better actor, and let's sort of, you know, put in the time. Unfortunately, I wish you didn't always have to put in the time and have those really lean years, but it's all part of the journey.
Was the role of Colossus, was that something that you had auditioned for something generic and then they casted that, or did you?
No, they did a general casting call, sort of they call them cattle calls, and they do it in multiple locations. And it was for Colossus, but it was basically the parameters were anyone over 6'3". So anyone over 6'3", male, come and audition for this, and I happened to audition in Vancouver, and they kept asking me to come back, and then it wouldn't, you know, whittle down, and next thing you know, I was like in the room in front of all the producers and the director, and then they offered me the job. So I guess I did something right. Because at that time, when I look at it in hindsight, I was like, oh my God, I had no idea what I was doing. Just in terms of the whole process. And again, it's always that hindsight's, you know, 20/20, but I look back at it, and it was a great adventure at the same time. So.
And now you reprised the role. Is it 2?
Yeah, well, 3 films in total.
3 films.
Yeah, 2, 3, and then like, you know, 14 years later, Days of Future Past. So yeah, it's kind of fun. It was like a bunch of geriatrics going back.
Were you familiar with? Were you a comic book fan? Were you familiar with the X-Men prior to that?
I was, yeah. I used to. The people always ask me. I used to watch the comic. As a kid, I just had too much energy, so I never really sat for very long. It was so the whole comic book world didn't work for me because A, I didn't have any money. B, I knew if I collected anything, my older brother would probably tear them up. It's just what he does, and then I just couldn't sit and read. I can read, don't get me wrong. But I just couldn't sit there for long periods of time without being, all right, I got to go do something. But I watched the cartoon, but then the problem was we had a 13-inch screen. So you're not watching anything on a 13-inch screen. We had like 3 channels, and it was always on directly after school. And my school was like a mile and a half straight downhill from my house. So I had to run, and I get 5 minutes of the end of the cartoon. So I never really got a chance to get into it, but I always liked that world. Yeah.
And how long after the X-Men did you end up in the Twilight saga?
Oh, man. Twilight was 2000 and...
They know out there, I can tell.
7 and 8? 7, I think, is when I booked the job. Or was it 8? All I know is I had gone right down to the wire on Spartacus. So the TV series Spartacus, I was supposed to be Crixus, one of the... basically the right-hand man to Spartacus, and signed contracts, screen tests in LA. We're all ready to go, and it was basically just between me and another guy, and that was Manu, and he got the role, and I was pretty bummed. Like that was going to be,
right.
You know, that was going to be. I mean, it was a pilot at the time, so you never know what was going to go. But at that time, I'm like, I get to go. I was young. I'm like, go live in New Zealand, just work, and learn and grow. And I was like, so that went away. And Twilight was just a random audition, and it wasn't even for the character that I played. It was the guy outside of a bar has to pick up Bella in the second one. So it was kind of like 2 or 3 lines, and I remember doing it. going to the audition, and I kind of looked around. I'm like, I don't look like anyone in here. Everyone, it looked like an Abercrombie and Fitch catalog shoot. Like, all the dudes look the same. Like, hey, what's happening? And that's not really me. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to have fun with the character and make him kind of goofy. And that brought me back, but then they didn't tell me that it was for a different character, and I showed up with 5 minutes to do the audition. I had to run to another job, and the casting director was like, all right, well, this character he's really dark. He's really dark, and he's a vampire. And I was like, what the shit are you talking about? Like, are you talking to the right actor? Like, I don't think. And so, needless to say, it was, here are the sides. Here's 5 minutes. Let's learn it. Let's tape it. And somehow they offered me the gig.
That seems to be a trend. You're like, hey.
Well, it's always one of those things where sometimes that lack of preparation can help. But at the same time, you don't want to be that person who just pooched a gigantic opportunity, without actually having an opportunity to sit down and get into what you want to do. So I just kind of I winged it, and it worked. And then they're like, hey, yeah, it's going to be 4 movies. I was like, oh, shit, yeah.
Were you familiar with the books
No,
before? No,
it's not me.
I mean,
But I
don't
read
ju- hey,
them.
I don't.
I
judge
read
a book
the
by its
shit
cover.
out of them.
Literally.
Sorry about my language. I swear a little bit. I read them. And the funny thing is, I went to a bookstore around my place, like downtown Vancouver, and it was one of those really, like, this is a bookstore. This is, unless it's real literature, we don't sell it. But they happen to be selling it. And I bought them because I'm doing my research. Mm-hmm. And the girl couldn't have been more obvious of her disdain for me as I placed those on the table. Do you want a bag? No, I'm going to carry these. But proud. And I was 1 second away from being like, I'm in the movie. But then I think she would have thought, yeah, I'm sure you are. Everyone is.
Now, I'm not up to date on the Twilights, but I assume that there are people here. If you guys have questions that maybe I'm not going to ask, please raise your
He's
hands.
pretending like he doesn't know.
All right. I'm going to ask the question, and I think you know the question.
Yeah. No, I don't. That's why it's a question.
Team Edward, Team Jacob.
Team Volturi. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. Team Volturi.
I think somebody's super mad. Like, why would you not go with your own clan? Of course, but
Well, come on. It's like saying, are you Team Russia or are you Team Great Britain? Everyone would be like, Team America. There you go. It's an obvious answer. I mean,
did you go to the premieres of?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are crazy. Those are wild. If you ever want to learn whether or not your antiperspirant works, go to a premiere. It's like, oh, hey, it's 95 degrees in the sun. We're going to add a bunch of lights because it's not hot enough. And could you put a 3-piece suit on? Because that would be fantastic. And you're like, great, that's awesome. Can you get me a mop for my forehead? Because I'm sweating. Do you mind if I drank 4 liters of water right now? That's a gallon, just in case you know.
And so you went to any of those? Were there any moments in that where you were like, "This is my life now"? Like something like weird happened. You're like, "Oh, I guess this is my life."
Yeah, when Kim Kardashian walked by me, I was like, "Where am I? What's going on? You're way shorter than I thought you were gonna be." I literally could have rested a drink on her head. She was just like, this little thing just rolled on by. It was weird. Just the people that wanted to be seen there, and just the sort of grandeur of the show that they put on. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, one of them was open to fans as well, which they didn't tell any of the actors. So all of a sudden, the after party, it was just so many people, and I was like, and a lot of people asking for photos, which was fine, but it threw me off because I'm like, what's going on here? And then the night totally changed to a different tone. Because you can't really relax and enjoy it because there's always someone taking a photo of you. So it was a little bit interesting, but I had fun. I had some drinks.
Were there any moments during?
Sorry, I'm just watching these people come in and then leave. I'm sorry I disappointed you. I feel like I'm talking to my dad right now. Don't worry, I'll get a real job, Dad.
Were there any moments
Come
during the shooting where, like, man, you just either couldn't get a line or somebody couldn't get a line and it just took 100 takes?
No, because that would totally throw another actor under the bus.
No,
I don't
you don't have to
think
name
so.
names.
No, I think everyone's really professional. There was never really, I think there's situations where you're just tired and like you start getting the giggles and you just can't help it and whatever. It doesn't matter how serious the scene is. You just start laughing. But off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything. I think everything was pretty seamless. I think there was also sort of like a nervous energy to make sure that everyone came in and did their job and weren't really the one who was going to be ostracized or pointed out. So no, not off the top of my head. But, I mean, filming for me has always been fun and fairly seamless. And even though it is serious and there's a huge amount of money involved, we're making make-believe. Like, I'm a sparkling vampire who's floating through a forest. Like, if you can't laugh at it, then like
That's not real life?
no, it's not real life.
Oh.
I mean, if you can float, cool, man. I think Tom Cruise can too, so whatever.
I think he sparkles as well.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, I think so.
Sometimes. I'd sparkle too if I had his bank account. Yeah.
So during Twilight and during these conventions, what is the I guess the weirdest question that maybe a fan has?
Oh God,
has
there was a
asked you?
grandmother who wanted to touch my chest.
It's okay.
I touch your chest. I'm just a grandma. Like, that's the exact reason why you cannot touch my chest. Just unbutton your shirt. It's all drunk. I'm like, get that. I'm going to use the bathroom. Then I'm going to not come back. Come on. Stop drinking, Grandma. Go home. You're drunk. Someone come get your grandma. Take her home. She's hammered and she's hitting on people half her age. Yeah. Yeah. Lots of room keys and pockets.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, like, if I
God.
was a single guy, cool, but I was in a relationship and no, man. That's just not my world. Nope.
You also you've
Nope.
done stunts as well.
Few here and there.
Yeah. So do you prefer the acting aspect or doing some of the stunt work stuff?
I like them both. I know there is a shelf life for stunt work. I mean, you do get smashed around. There is every effort in the world to make it look really violent, but make it safe. But you're still smashing into the concrete, and you have some light pads on. But that's just the way it is. I like the physical performance of stunt work. I like how it helps me with my scenes and my acting. I like to try to do everything. I'm a bit greedy in that aspect. I want to kind of do everything I can, and to the point where if I can't do it, I'll get someone to come in who's kick-ass and, hey, you want to do this really cool motorcycle catwalk? I can't really do that cool, so bring in someone who's a pro at that. But they just sort of, both of them feed two different pieces of me that I really, really enjoy. I love the stillness and the intensity that can sometimes come out of acting, and I like that sort of performance, that feel that I used to get from playing competitive sports and that adrenaline rush. So, yeah, I like them both.
Have you ever, while doing stunts, done anything to get injured?
I blew my back out last year, though I didn't know. It wasn't like an acute moment. It was just I woke up one morning and like, my left glute is so sore, and then I find out that I blew a disc in my back doing something, and so you never really know whether or not it's a certain moment. I'm like, what else have I done? I mean, I've done bruised spines and I've bruised elbows, and I've never torn anything. I've never broken anything. Never concussed myself, which is a really good thing. But yeah, it's violent, man. Like, and some of the things like a ratchet where you're on an air-powered ram on a wire, and you're going in a direction that human beings shouldn't go at a speed that you shouldn't go. So, things happen very fast, and so if you're not sort of prepared for it, it can mess you up pretty good.
Now, do you think playing rugby helped you prepare for some of that physicality?
Sure. I mean, I grew up in the middle of three boys, and we used to beat the shit out of each other all day, every day. And so, yeah, I mean, like, my life has been a lot of action sports, contact sports, doing stupid stuff, maybe having one too many drinks. Sure, I can do that. I can jump that, no problem. So it's been a lot of that. So I think sort of life has sort of prepared me for my job, sort of art imitating life in a way.
Is there anything you haven't done? It's either voice acting or writing.
Voice acting.
Voice.
Well, writing is a tough one because I just literally don't have the time. When I'm home, my 2 kids, I'm like, that's our world and our time, and I don't have time to sit down and give writing the amount of time it really needs. And to be a proficient writer, you need to just nonstop. Voice work, yes, but every single time I'm about to put together a demo reel or a voice reel, I get busy on another show. So it's one of these, it's first world problems. I'm kind of like, all right.
Yeah. What's your thoughts on Robert Pattinson?
I think it's fantastic.
Being Batman, cast for
Well, the
Batman.
problem is everybody knows him from the Twilight series.
Right.
So the tough thing is if you actually start to look through his body of work and watch what he's done, as an actor, he's fantastic. He's a very, very strong actor. So what do you want in a superhero? You want a strong actor first, and then physically you can build that on somebody. Right? So physically you see Ben Affleck before and after? Like, physically you can build that. You put the right stuff in somebody's body and make them work their ass off, and they'll get there. So I'm all for it. I'm like, you know what? Go for it, man. I think he'll do fantastic. If he doesn't, then I'm totally wrong. So it's 50-50, right?
I guess it's 50-50.
I mean, it's just a big 50-50 gamble if you're a studio.
This is true. Well, that's a bigger gamble than just it's a couple $1 billion gamble, but what's a couple $1 billion?
But let's be honest. Like, let's look at the Batman franchise and see how many actors have played it. Right. It's a revolving door of high level actors coming in.
Do you have a favorite Batman?
You know what? I liked the Val Kilmer Batman. I really liked the Christian Bale version just because it was also the tone of the whole franchise. It was much more grounded in that sort of gritty realness that is Gotham and Batman and all the things that he's gone through. So I appreciated that. I didn't think Ben Affleck did a horrible job of what he was presented with. Those aren't. I also commend him for jumping into something, having just finished with Christian Bale. Like, okay, you want me to take over where Christian Bale left off? All right, let me think about this, because he created something, and Zack Snyder, they created something that was just kind of iconic in a way, especially because Batman before and most of comic book movies at that time when they first started were pretty campy, let's be honest. Like, that was sort of the realm before, Zack Snyder started getting his hands on it, and a lot of comic books started to get into the gritty realness of what life would be if you were to be set in that world.
What made you get into acting? Why acting and why not? Like, you said you were doing a lot of competitive sports with your brothers, or just even something else. Why was it acting?
I always had a very vivid imagination, and I was always a kid that just really liked to kind of live in the world of make-believe and in my head. And let's be honest, in high school, I was a jackass. I was like the one who was always cracking jokes, and I was causing trouble in class. And my teachers just said, go to drama. That's where you get rewarded for that kind of behavior. I was like, oh, this is sweet. Okay, cool. I get to go goof around for an hour every single day. Great. And that's when I just kind of clicked. I thought that at one point I might be going down the avenue of medicine after my father is a doctor, and I'm like, let's do that. And then I just kind of went, that's not what I'm passionate about, and I'm not willing to give up 10 years to 14 years of my life just to become a doctor, and it would do it for the wrong reasons. And sports was another avenue that I thought for 1 second I was going to be overseas playing professional rugby, but sports has that funny thing about it where there's a ton of skill, there's a ton of hard work, but there is a large portion of luck where you could be in the wrong place at the wrong time and you just twist your knee the wrong way. And there goes your ACL, and there goes this. And I got on the wrong side of a few real bad injuries. And I just sort of had that realization that no matter how hard after all of those that I would work, I'd still be 80% of what I could be, and mentally I said, you know what, I'd gone far enough. Like, I'd played some national team rugby, I played college football, like I enjoyed myself. But to sort of live in the world of just being sore every single morning, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm good, man. I'm like, you sort of feel like you're pushing something that just isn't meant to be. And so it wasn't the be-all, end-all for me, so.
You mentioned getting involved in high school. Do you remember what your first performance was? Do you remember the high school performances?
Yeah, we did theater sports. So improv games, that was kind of my world. And just, we had a theater sports team that we would go to other high schools and compete. But compete in sort of like neutral ground. Like all the high schools would get together and then we'd go to a theater and we'd have a whole theater sports and you'd have judges. And I remember doing that and like that instant, and you would get instant gratification or knowledge as to whether or not you were funny at the time. Right. Because if if your joke dropped and it just completely bombed, it's crickets. And you know, like, oh, well, that did not work. Whereas in film, you don't know how your performance is going to resonate with someone. Because you do that, and then 6 months to a year, it comes out, and then, people are sometimes too vocal about how they feel. But, if it's a positive, then that's fantastic. But you kind of have to do the job, be okay with letting it go, and then just kind of hope for the best. But, yeah.
Do you have an affinity for either comedy or, some of the Marvel action or some drama?
I have an affinity with making paychecks. With finding projects that I can dive into and work on. But if, in the perfect world, I would love to do everything. I love really strong, hard-hitting drama with characters that are well-rounded. But I also love being self-deprecating and not taking myself seriously and playing crazy characters because that's, life has a bit of everything. But, because of the way I look, because of my size, 9 times out of 10, I'm never really brought in for comedy things. And then when I am, I always get the casting director and go, you're actually really funny. And it's kind of like this backhanded compliment. I'm like, oh, well, thank you. Bring me out more because I love comedy. But, as long as I'm working, I'm happy. But, at a certain point in your career, you hope you can get to a place where as an actor, you can say, I like this project, I want to work on this project. I like this one, I want to work on that one, and have this nice blend of everything. But as of right now, it's just keep booking work as much as I can.
Do you have a dream project, either like something that you would like to see remade that you could be like, oh man, I really want that one, or like a TV show to be a movie, or a cartoon, or a video game?
I'm not a huge fan of remakes. Sometimes they work, but I like original content. I like the fact that it's the first time someone's ever get to play with it and sort of create what they believe the character or the show or the direction or the tone. But I don't think I have anything that is in the back of my mind. I'm like, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this. I just want to keep advancing and going in the direction I'm going to be one day, the lead on a TV series or the lead on a movie, and that's kind of the direction I'm going in.
Would you prefer movies over TV or TV over, or again, whatever pays the?
It's just, yeah. I primarily did movies at the beginning of my career, so I only really knew that pace for a long time. And then now Vancouver, where I live, is just so populated with television shows. The pace is so much faster, and that is really nice. I like being able to just go home after work and wake up in my own bed, whereas, majority of the times movies are always somewhere else. So they just need the visuals of wherever they're shooting or the studio space. But I think I like them both. I think when I work on one genre too long, I start to kind of pine for the other one. I like the sort of glacial speed that movies move at just because of the size of them. But then at the same time, you could sit there and you're like twiddling your thumbs for weeks because nothing's happening unless you are number 1 or 2 on the show. And then TV shows just are so fast that, one, it's really enjoyable that you can just sort of make a hard choice in what you want to do, and then you don't have time to go back on it. But then on the sort of the other side of it is like, you're like, oh, maybe I should have redone that scene, but we're already another scene ahead, and they're not going to tear everything down and rebuild it. So,
are there any scenes that you that you can remember that you're like, man, I really want that one back?
Not really. But they're all learning experiences because you have to just go back on them and watch them and be like, well, what was I thinking at that time? And was I fully committed into what I wanted to do? And did I feel that? And then you start to be okay with not demanding, but asking very strongly that if you do something and you just don't feel right about it, even though they want to move on and the director wants to move on, you just have to say, look, creatively, I need one more take, one more kick of the can of that. And so it's just part of life, and everyone experiences, and whatever they do is just the maturity of where you are in your life and knowing that you're doing it for the right reasons, right? And so, yeah, life's always a learning experience.
In doing some of these GalaxyCon events, is there anybody who you fanboyed out over, walk into your table or in the green room or just see you walking, you're like, oh my God, it's William Shatner?
No, I've never been that kind of a person. I respect people for what they've done, and I'll be like, hey, it was a great job in that. But I've never been one to kind of like, oh, I don't know. And that's just not my personality. And I guess it's also because of the fact that I'm in this world, I have worked with some really big names, and you really just get to know that they're just chill, normal people or crazy, just like anybody else. They just happen to have that thing that carries around with them from all the work that they've done. So a lot of it's just respect for what people have done. But no, I haven't had that moment yet. I always wonder if I will ever have that, but I don't think so.
Who is your first crush, like television or movie crush, that if they walked, you might get the butterflies?
Oh God, you're really going with the questions here, man. Did I ever have a television crush? I don't think so. I'll come back to it.
All right.
I remember meeting Rebecca Romaine Stamos.
Oh.
Yeah, it was after X2, so I was young, and I remember meeting her in person. I was like, hi. And then in the back of your head, you're like, say something smart, dumbass. How are you? So I remember that. I remember there was one time with Halle Berry. When I first met her, I was like, oh my God, you're gorgeous. And then I got to know her. She's just the sweetest. But I remember this one time. On XMen 3, and we were shooting a lot of scenes in green screen. So we have high heat, lots of lighting. So it's already hot in the studio, and then you get up where a green screen is, and it's way out there. It's probably in the 90s, maybe higher, just because of the strength of them. And I was supposed to have the day off. So I was running around doing stuff, went and had a really great workout at the gym, and I get this frantic call from my agent. You got to be at work. They're calling you in. I was like, oh, God, okay, I got to run. I remember just going home, lightning speed. I had a shower. I just ripped out the door, went to work, and, after your workout, you're still sweating. And I remember getting there, and I was like, oh, shit. I totally forgot to put deodorant on. And there was none there, and I'm just sweating, and the suit I'm wearing is all leather. So that, let's just add to it, And there I am. They're like, all right, we're ready for you. And we go up and we're standing in the green screen, and it is boiling, and I can feel like sweat trickling down my arms at this point. And Halle Berry comes in, hi, and she decides to come over and just like give me a hug, but because of her height, she basically just went right under my arm. And I'm just like. And she just stayed there and was chatting to people, and I was like, does she not notice? Oh no, she's got a leather suit on with sleeves, so she doesn't notice. Oh God, I hope she doesn't know that I'm smelling right now. And so I haven't seen her. If I do see her, I'm gonna ask her if she ever remembered if I was stinky at that time. But I remember leaving, and I'm like, oh yeah, just sweat all over Halle Berry today at work. That was awesome.
Could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
All right.
Yeah.
I
could have had a stomach virus.
Right.
We'll leave it at that.
Now, living and working in Vancouver.
Yep.
And then Like that's a really cool city. Like I got a chance to.
I love it, man.
What are some of the hidden gems of Vancouver that people might not know about?
It's very outdoorsy. I mean, we've got a huge emerging food scene, so our restaurants are fantastic. We've got a lot of craft breweries, which is great if you're into having some beers, and then just the close proximity to the mountains and the ocean. So there is a ton of nature, and if whether you are someone who wants to hike, whether you want to do some crazy mountain biking with like 30-foot drops on mountain bikes, or you want to go skiing and snowboarding, it's all within a half-an-hour drive. And then you're downtown, and if it's a sunny day, you just hop on your skateboard or you walk or you ride your bike, and there's like a 6.5, 7 mile loop that goes right around the city. So it's pretty fantastic. Cost of living is insane, like insane. But I mean, that's always the kind of the way it's going to be. But hidden gems, I'm like, it's all there. There's not really anything that's hidden.
Speaking of hidden, is the Yeti real?
Your microphone was
Yes.
getting all frisky with
Yeah.
you there.
Is
Like,
Bigfoot real? I mean, I have to ask.
don't look at me.
I mean, hey, you're.
Like, I don't know what you're trying to imply here, man.
I mean, the Pacific Northwest. I was just there, and the merchandise at every single store is all Bigfooty.
Sure,
and-
I know, right? I have no idea. There's some big animals out in the woods, and they're like, you look at Canada, it is second largest in the world, and we have 30. I don't know what the last census was, but like 34 million people.
Oof.
You know, like there is a lot of uncharted land.
Absolutely.
And deep, dense wilderness. So, sure, why not?
Maybe.
There's something out there. There's stuff out there, but the whole sort of don't know and the lore of it is always kind of fun because there are people that are pretty convinced and spend their entire life.
Do you have any? I don't want to say conspiracy. Do you have any beliefs or like UFOs, ghosts? Like, do you have any of those that?
I think we all have a fascination with things we haven't seen and don't understand. I say, why not? I mean, like, there's got to be more things out there than we really realize. I think some people are kind of more open to things out there. I mean, when you look at the universe, how could only one planet have life on it? Do I know if there's anything out there? No. Have I been abducted and probed? No. But it's kind of one of those weird things. It's almost kind of like arrogant to say we're the only ones in an extremely vast universe. So who knows? And if there isn't anything out there, then that's just a giant joke.
Right.
Because it's like with all of those planets and all of those solar systems, there's not one other one that supports any type of life that looks or resembles some kind of human life. It's kind of like that's kind of the giant joke. You're just like, oh, that's a lot of real estate, and no one's.
Maybe there's one out there that has a planet full of vampires that make human movies.
Right? And they all sparkle with no fangs.
And speaking of being out there, you are going to be out there at your table later on
I'm there,
today
man.
and tomorrow?
Absolutely. I'll be half my height sitting down.
All right, so I think that's going to wrap it up for today, unless we have any more questions before we wrap up. Oh, you have it?
Yes.
All right.
I hope so. I mean, I always bring my own version of whatever it is with some guidance of Stephanie Meyer, the creator. The only thing I disagreed with was the vast changes of hairstyles. But yeah, I mean, like he's. I hope I did it. I mean, that's my version of it, and that's what I kind of viewed while going through the books and sort of getting an idea. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.